Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Cover One Golf Podcast presented by Byrncliff Golf Resorts and Banquets. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Quinn. I'm joined by my co-host Chris Kepner this morning.
What's up, guys?
The room's a little lighter today, Chris. Just you and I here, Rock, and we got our good buddy Dave Tillon is in like a 4-day tournament at his country club. And then Nate Geary's down in Philadelphia playing tons of golf, hopefully recovered from his injury. So we're holding it down this week.
Yeah, that's right. They are representing Cover One Golf in spirit on the golf course, and we're really happy for him. I mean, yeah, David Tilton's playing in the big member tournament, and it's an annual thing. He gets really excited about it. He's sharing information with us about how it's going. It's a lot of fun to follow along. So.
Yeah. And yesterday I think it was a scramble that they were doing, and he was messaging me. I was out on the golf course with our good friend of Cover One, Sal Capaccio, hit me up, and I took him out to go down to Brighton, get him a little warmed up here for the season. He played awesome, actually, by the way. And I think he talked about it on the radio today. We ended up playing with a gentleman named John, and older gentleman, and wasn't the necessarily best golfer, but this dude, every time we got up to the green, Chris, he would, no matter where our ball was on the green, he would come up to the hole and tap a spot, and he's like, hit it right here, 2 balls left, 2 balls right. And I swear to God, Sal sank the 2 biggest putts I've seen this year. One had to be like 35 and one was maybe like 40 feet out.
Wow.
And it was just like this guy John tapped on the spot and Sal hit it to that spot and the ball went in. And it didn't matter where on the green we were. He's like, I've played so many rounds at this course. I could tell you where you got to hit. It was pretty incredible. Caddy John. So shout out to him. But while I was out there, Till was texting me about his round. We were always messaging back and forth. And the thing I love when doing that with you guys, whether it's in the group text or with Till, is whenever I'm texting you guys and like, oh, this round is like getting out of control, or like this is going terrible, like something clicks. And then I save it. And it happened for Till in his group yesterday, where he was like, man, we're really struggling. And I think that the last couple of holes, they turned it around after he messaged me, and they got themselves back within striking distance here going into day 2. So I'm excited to hear from him how day 2 rolls.
There's absolutely something to that, right? Like 18 birdies is where I first started to feel that sort of that social connection on the course. I was playing last year and having kind of a tough round through the first 5 or 6 holes, and I think I sent you guys a message like, hey, this is not going so well, and until I sent like one of those like flex emojis, like stick in there. Yeah. I birdied the next hole and was okay from there. So it was it's pretty cool, man, to have like a little bit of a cheering section, I guess, when you can't all be in the same place, but you're still following along and tracking how things are going.
Yeah. And for me, if people don't know, I golf solo quite a bit just because of the hours that I'm available to do golf here during this part of the year where my kids are still in school, is like 9 to 10 a.m. tee times. And I'll make it tee time. And if somebody else doesn't have it, they'll just kind of send me out on my own. When you're on your own, it's nice. I do like golfing by myself. I like golfing with others. Like any chance I get to golf, I'm cool. But when you're by yourself, I know I have a lot of friends that are like, you got to put your phone away and keep your phone away. But I have our DM group, a couple people that I individually text with from my other group, and there is still something social to it, of having your phone and having that ability to be like, hey, like when I got we'll talk about our weeks this week, but I got an eagle this week, and I messaged a dude that's a much better golfer than me, who's been really working with me and helping me. And I showed him, and we were just like emojis back and forth. He's like, yeah, big dog, sending gifts. And it feels good. Like when you're by yourself, you don't always get to celebrate or be in frustration in those moments that you get with social golf. And so technology allows us, whether it's through 18 birdies or text groups or whatever, kind of allows you to still have social aspect to golf, even when the guys aren't out there with you, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Thanks to our friend Joe DeRosa here. He's saying, make sure you drop a like if you're listening on podcast. Please do subscribe and rate and review. It really helps as we try to build this up. And Joe, who is a known scratch golfer, we appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. And yeah, if you're like Chris said, if you're on podcast, the reviews help. If you're over here on YouTube, give us a like, give us a subscribe. We are a new YouTube channel under the Cover One umbrella, and so we are looking to build this channel up. So we appreciate that. And
If you're a Cover One subscriber, you will not get these in your feed unless you also subscribe to the Cover One Golf channel.
correct. And same is true on podcast. You're not just going to get this for subscribing to our show, Cover One Buffalo, or any of the other Cover One. You got to go out and individually do it. In that vein, while it's just Chris and I today, we are lining up some guests. We have some really cool, interesting, more like evergreen type content coming up the in the works here about how to get better for us. So you'll hear people talking to us about how to get better, and I hope that that helps to translate into your individual golf games as well here. And while we're giving shout outs and stuff like that, again, for people that don't know, Byrncliff Golf Resorts and Banquets is our sponsor here for the show. So shout out to Byrncliff Resorts to book a tee time. It's 585-535-7300. In a little bit after we go through our first topic here, Chris and I are going to talk about we're heading out there this Saturday to get together and do some golfing. And we're going to go and play 18 at Byrncliff and make some content, report back on our experience. Hopefully it's a great day. The weather looks fantastic, Chris. So at least if our golf games don't travel well, at least the weather will be nice and we'll be able to get out and have a nice day outside on the links.
Nothing wrong with being outside, hanging out. I mean, obviously you hope to play well, but like you said, even if it doesn't go well, golf wise, it's still a good time.
Yeah, that's what real quick I want to shout out. If you're not following Practical Golf on Twitter or the Sweet Spot podcast, which is John Sherman and Adam Young's podcast, John Sherman often is trying to frame the game in ways that create the correct expectations for people. And every Friday and Saturday, one of those days, he'll tweet out like, no matter what it is you expect of yourself, like just be appreciative if you're going out golfing that you have the ability to go out and golf. And I always try, like yesterday, I'm out with Sal. I didn't have my best day. I didn't bring my best stuff. I was struggling with some things that haven't popped up in my game. And I got frustrated for a minute. I don't toss clubs. I'm not that kind of guy. But then I remember John's words. And it's like, it's a beautiful day in Western New York. And I'm hanging out with a buddy. And Sal and I are chatting, having a good time. It's like, so yeah, my game's going a little sideways, but who cares? I'm outside. It's active. It's nice. It's perfect. I get golfing. And so having those expectations on top of the goals that we set here, I think is a good way to frame the game of golf.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about something that for me, I think is outside of actually going and playing, one of my favorite parts of golf, with whether it's practice and stuff like that, is the preparation people put into their game. And so we were talking about getting ready for this weekend and meeting up and what were we going to talk about this week without the other guys on the podcast. And I think a great conversation is, how do people prepare for a round of golf, whether it be going to a better resort like a Byrncliff, or even just picking up, like I might do this afternoon here, and throwing my clubs in the car and going to play 9 holes over at your local municipal course. So Chris, let's get started on that conversation of prepping for a round of golf. I don't know about you, but like what period of time does your prep for a round of golf begin? Because like for this Byrncliff one, mine will begin tonight on how I start to prepare for it.
Yeah, usually the day before. I mean, honestly, when it comes to things like equipment and everything, I'm usually preparing at the end of the previous round. Like I like to put my stuff away with my clubs generally clean. Like I don't do a deep clean for every round or anything like that, but like to make sure they're nice and wiped down, and I like to make sure that I've got enough balls in the bag for the next round. I
How
kind of
many
do
balls
that
do you
stuff.
carry per round?
I try to keep at least a dozen, but
Okay.
I don't actually lose that many
I
balls.
was gonna
So
say, how many of you like had to have in any given round?
yeah, it really depends on the course. I think the most I've lost in the last like year or so, I probably lost 7 or 8 at this one course in Florida because there was just water everywhere and the fairways are really narrow. It was Jack Nicklaus course, old corkscrew, which is really a beautiful course if you ever have a chance to get down to the Naples, Florida area. But it's tough. It's a
Yeah,
really tough one. But most of the time, I only lose. I go through rounds of losing 0 balls pretty
for sure.
frequently, like maybe 1 or 2 here and there.
Yeah, I have a pretty big cart bag and I use a roll cart thing. So like I overpack my bag all the time and have probably way too many balls. But I was thinking about that the other day of like realistically, I probably only need like a sleeve most time. Like 3 balls. I'm not losing like I'll lose maybe a ball or two, but if the slice is real bad, then I probably need a couple extra. But yeah, it's an interesting thing of like uh I wonder if I would have the confidence level in my own game to just go out with like 4 balls in the bag
Yeah.
and like be confident that I could finish that round.
I mean, I think it's one of those things where like, having 4 balls in the bag feels like a mental thing.
Yeah.
That would be good, but it's kind of
But then what
doesn't
happens
make
when
a
you're
ton of
stuck out there
sense.
and you don't have a ball?
Right, yeah, because it's not like it's tough to carry 12
Yeah.
balls. They're
What I
not,
will say though, when I'm losing balls, I'm finding balls, right? Because
Yes, that's also yeah.
if
Mhm.
I'm out in the woods, I'm gonna be picking up a couple, and hopefully I walk away with some like Pro V1s that are out in the woods or something.
I don't know if any of you guys have played Rothland out in, Clarence,
No,
but
I haven't.
my sister and I, when we go out to that course, we play a game, where we try to see, like, our net ball gain over the course of the round because there's water where you can easily pull out, like, 8, 10 balls on a single hole, so it's pretty fun. I think our record was, like, 25 or so and around. It was
Wow.
pretty yeah, it was great.
That's awesome. All right, so I cut you off there. Continue on. So equipment, you clean your clubs, make sure you have your balls. What else are you the night before getting it into your bag and getting ready, or that after the round? Right? You said this is
Yeah, I
after the
usually do
previous
the
round.
equipment stuff, at the end of the previous round just because I like to kind of know that my bag is ready just because sometimes, schedules don't allow that extra time to make sure. But the day before a round, I do like to do some course scouting, which we can kind of run through now, or if you want to wait a little bit, I can show you an example of what I like to do with that. I'll do that, a day or two before, depending. And yeah, just stretching is so important. And I feel like I do a lot of that on most days, but certainly the day before and the day of around, uh, focusing on, doing getting loose, right? And I think that really helps to set the tone for a good round.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, I'm a little opposite in that when I get home from a round, I just throw my bag. And there's still trash in it from the food that I've consumed and things like that. And I don't get around like at night when we're after we put the kids to bed. I'll pull my clubs and clean them and scrub them and go through the balls and wash any balls that need to be washed. And make sure that my bag's cleaned out, packed tight for the next day. That's always something that I do kind of the night before around as a bit of a ritual. But to your point, I actually don't do course scouting. Part of that is I play the same courses pretty often, especially this time of year. I'm bouncing between 2 courses primarily. But even when I go play a new one, I have not, I know that a lot of the data and the Arcos allows you to do some scouting. We'll show when we talk about our round coming up here. But I don't, I think for me, the times that I have done it has gotten in my head of when I previously look at a hole and how I expect I should play this hole. And then I hit a slice and it's like the Mike Tyson, like everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face type thing. Then my kind of plan goes out the window. So I am a person that plays by feel per round and get to know a course, and that probably backfires for me when I do travel to new courses and I play maybe more difficult courses like a Byrncliff, and I don't know what's up ahead of me or how it's going to play ahead of me, and so I might try it this week here tonight, do a little bit of scouting on the Arcos app for myself and what to expect. But it's not something that I primarily do. But to your point, I'm playing so much now. Uh, 4 to 5 days a week, even though it's just 9, that adds up. And so for me, a lot of my pre-round ritual is stretching, but it's stretching and plus exercise. I think part of recovery this year that I learned that is important to add into stretching. One is dynamic stretching, so like stretches that are more motion based versus like static stretches, just to get my fast twitch muscles and things like that in place, but also throughout the week adding some
Pilates.
strength. I do a little bit of Pilates. Pilates were something I was doing much more in the off season. Like I built myself an off season sort of regimen of weight and strength training specifically for golf. Pilates was built in there, but right now during the week, I'm trying to make sure 3 to 4 days I'm doing some form of strength training in addition to the stretching in between rounds to just continue to hopefully grow strength, which will hopefully increase distance, which will hopefully allow me to swing a better paced swing versus trying to hit it real hard and maintain that distance. And also, I think from the research I've done, continuing, in the process of trying to keep my body fresh, stretching super important, but continuing to build that strength is also important to the recovery and rehab of the muscles. And so I do some of that. And then the day before is I really ramp up the dynamic stretching. And like before you'll come to pick me up for Byrncliff, before getting in the car, like I'll do some resistance band training just to like activate muscles and stuff so that when we go to hit balls, my muscles have already been activated for the day and I'm starting to warm up. Or if it's a place that like Byrncliff where it's a long drive, maybe like right when we get there, just starting to really activate muscles. Something that I've added no matter what I do, sometimes the rounds that I get to are a little later than I'd like to arrive at the course. And when I used to show up to the course, I would go over to the putting green and get some putts in and get some chips in and things like that. But now, if I only have, say, 10 minutes before a round, I take out my tempo stick. I got one of those like yellow weighted bendy sticks and I will slowly ramp up swinging that. So like swinging at 20%, swinging at 30%, and ramp myself all the way up to swinging at 100%, versus any type of hitting or anything around the greens. Because I think warming my body up at 40 years old is much more important than like feeling the pace of the greens at this point for me.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I struggle with, building in that time before a round too, especially when I'm trying to build it into like the back half of a work day or something.
Mm-hmm.
I always have so much to do with work. It's like, let me get this one more thing done, and then I do lose out sometimes on that time on the practice green, which can be helpful. I mean, if you have time to visit the practice green before your round and kind of see how the how the greens are that day. Are they running fast? Are they running slow? It can help, but you
Do you
know,
find I've found sometimes, depending on the course, that the practice green isn't indicative of the
sometimes it
playing
depends, especially
greens?
the munis, right?
Yeah.
Like, but it's I think I don't if there's a range and a practice green, I'll always prioritize the range. I feel like I can figure out the green speed fairly quickly from like the first couple of holes. Um, if there's a range, then yeah, I do like to try to build in some time to get a few driver hits just to kind of get those. Then I feel like I'm not going to duff it off the first tee, which is one of the things that used to be a big source of stress for me around golf. Not so much anymore. But now that I've been back in the game long enough that I don't really consistently duff it off the tee. But and then like fairway woods are a big thing that I continue to be inconsistent with. So if I can hit some 5 wood 3 wood shots at the range before a round and kind of get a good feel for it heading into that first hole, I just feel more confident. So
Yeah. Every course should either have a like warm up hole, like a short par four or something that isn't like
mhm,
counted,
like
or
preseason.
golf groups. Well, actually, my golf group was talking about this the other day of like where depending on your handicap or index, like everyone should either get a par or bogey on the first hole, almost regardless of the outcome. Like we just all agree up front to have a warm up hole because
Yeah,
like some of us are in positions like you're talking about where it's like, dude, we have kids, like, and there's
right.
soccer practice in the morning, and then we're like rushing to the golf course. And the other day, my group, we went out to Audubon in Amherst, and it was one of these things. It was on Memorial Day, and we had the tea time, but then the weather looked like it was going to be raining and terrible and stormy all day. And so in our text group, it was like, I think we're going to cancel for the day. And then an hour goes by, and the weather's not really what we expected it to be. And so then it was like, well, maybe we should go. Like, and one person's like, well, what if we do go? Can everybody else go? And it was like, it ended up happening very fast. And it was like, okay, let's all get there. We'll meet there and get out. And no one had a chance to warm up the proper way that we all would like to. No one really had a chance to like wrap their head around. There were some other people behind us. So the starter was like, all right, pay and then get out. And so like we all just kind of like run up to the tee box and tee off. And everybody played a poor first hole. I got a 7. My buddy got a 7. A couple of people got 8s, and we're just like all kind of rushing out, scrambling, and then trying to catch our breath after the first hole. And while we're out there, we're talking like, in situations like this, dude, we should just give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. We're not pros. We haven't been, we're not Scotty Scheffler showing up 3 hours early for a tee time and getting to the range and working with coaches. Like, we're a bunch of dummies that just showed up 5 minutes before a tee time trying to get out here. And now we've already dug ourselves a hole into a round where golf's super hard. It was already like a windy, kind of wet day. It was going to be a hard sludge of a day. Luckily, some of us turned our rounds around and were able to play within ourselves and play to our handicaps. But golf's hard enough. And I don't know, like in those types of situations where you haven't been able to prepare for anything, like, should we take it so seriously where it's like, no, you got to play that 8, bro. Sorry, sucks for you. Or just like, hey, let's just give ourselves a bogey and call it a wash.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious, maybe this is a conversation for another day, but the idea of mulligans and breakfast balls and how do those factor in? Because it's kind of along the lines of what you're talking about, where you get an entire hole that doesn't count towards your scorecard. I would sort of eliminate, I think, a lot of people's need for that to feel like they, like a mulligan or a breakfast ball when they're starting off.
I want to, as an experiment in content, I did this a little bit this spring, Chris, where I was out by myself and it was spring golf, and I wasn't, some of the rounds I didn't even count. I put them into 18 birdies and then delete them because it was just so crappy and muddy and just junk golf, and the greens weren't even cut. But I ran a very small sample size experiment of, I would have a poor shot off tee or whatever, and then I would just fire provisional, and then I would play the both balls. And I found that there wasn't a ton of variance, like, because for me, and I don't know about you, for me, I am going to probably have a bad, like, so even if I tee off real well, I'm probably going to screw up an approach shot, or I'm going to duff a chip or some other shot down the road on that hole. I almost always have one bad shot at a minimum per hole, which is why I'm playing bogey golf. I'm not playing par golf, right? Like, and so I would say, I'm interested to see if that experiment, like if taking a mulligan actually does net better results for you, because when I was playing it out, I almost scored identical, whether or not my tee shot was poor and I played another ball. I would make another bad shot on that other ball, and then I would recover well on the poor tee shot. And so it ended up just netting out the same. I would love to do that through an entire 18 sometime in decent conditions, and kind of run a sample of like, if I took a mulligan for every bad shot, would my score actually change all that much? Because I don't know if it would.
Yeah, tough to say. Could be a fun experiment.
I like Bob's comment here. Yeah, play 19 and strike that warm-up hole. Yeah. Courses would probably struggle with that, and starters, and like it would back things up. But even if it was like a warm-up par 3.
Sure.
Maybe you don't get the drive, but you get a warm-up hole in.
Yeah. If there's room, maybe if there's, a gap, go out on 18, play 18, and then start on 1. Not that that's often going to be the case, but
Yeah. I mean, for me playing municipals early in the morning, I think you could get one extra hole in and not be disruptive to it. So, one last thing on preparation, not super important to the actual game of golf itself, but when do you decide on your fit or outfit for a round of golf? Because for some people, I know my guy Nate, he's always looking sharp as hell, and it's definitely something that it's part of it's almost like that first day of school where you get excited, you got a new pair of shoes or something. Like, I get excited for rounds of golf, and I do lay out what I'm going to wear the day before and stuff like that. How about you? When do you kind of pick out your fit and get ready for a match?
yeah, sometimes the night before, for sure. Yeah, especially if I got to do laundry, right?
Yeah, right.
But that's a big part of it. No, yeah, you're right though. I like to wear kind of loud, fun shirts. So I don't put a ton of, you know,
You're not a hat guy on
I've
the
become a
course.
hat guy.
You
I
are?
used
Okay.
I have become a hat guy. Yeah, I've started to, the sunburn started to be an issue, on the forehead, and so I started to, realize, okay, people wear hats for a reason on the golf course. I resisted it for a while. I think part of it was just I didn't really have any hats I was really into,
Sure.
so I bought a few hats and I wear hats now on the
I'm
course.
getting the opposite problem because I'm bald and I've been playing so much that I'm getting a good amount of sun. I'm getting that like traditional golfer's tan, my watch, my sock line, arms and stuff like that. But I'm getting the like you ever see the dude like a Brian Harmon takes off his hat and he
Oh
has the big
yeah.
white head. I'm that is happening to me. So I have to make it a point to like when I'm home and I'm outside gardening or something. I usually don't leave my hat off because heads burn so bad. But like I'm trying to give myself a reminder like I got to get some sun on my
Right.
head or this is going to look terrible when there's situations where I have to like go somewhere without a hat which isn't regularly, but I'll end up having to like go to a wedding or something this summer, and I don't want to just have a big white crown and
Mhm.
just sunburn underneath it. So I gotta get some sun on the top of my head.
Do you
Hats on point.
use sunscreen on your face?
Not enough.
Mhm.
So yesterday, I don't know if anyone like my nose got pretty burnt yesterday. It didn't. It was one of those days where it was probably only like in the low 70s, but it was all sun, but there was breeze, and so it didn't feel like we were getting as much sun as we did. And when I got into my car, my nose was like very red, and so I will apply sunscreen before I go out if it's going to be a sunny day. But you're out there for hours sometimes,
Yeah.
and I don't reapply enough
Mm.
during a round. I just forget and so that's probably something else I have to add into my rituals is making sure I have it packed and making sure that maybe I set a timer or something on my watch to reapply because I get just so caught up in the round. And you do bake in the sun. I was actually playing with a
Oh, sure.
guy at Amherst. It was 85 degrees a couple weeks ago, and this dude didn't drink a lick of water. And that's something else I want to talk about in terms of prepping for a round. He didn't drink any water. He was drinking coffee all day, and he's an older gentleman. And we get around to like the last two holes, and it was windy and stuff like that. But the sun was beating on us all day, and he honestly, I thought like we might have a medical situation on our hands because he was just dehydrated. Sun was just like beating on his face. You could see it and I think that happens more often where like we tire out and fatigue and around and don't even realize how much sun we're getting, how much little water we've consumed, food. I've seen studies on like what the caloric intake should be per hole. Like there's some golfers out there, pro golfers that will like snack per hole. They'll take like so many bites that like have a banana or a peanut butter sandwich or something like that and just a bite or two as they go to maintain that like so you don't fatigue. And in that vein, I don't know about you for me if I'm just going out even and playing 9, I bring 2 bottles of water for myself, and I do lemon with some Himalayan salt for the electrolytes and stuff like that. And then I also my bag has a built-in cooler. I bring meal replacement shakes and some like protein bars, and if I have them on hand, like a banana or something like that, just to make sure that I have calories in my bag and try to remember like, hey, every other hole, like take a bite of something, get some calories in because you are yeah, like I measure my golf in the workout app on my phone. You're burning way more calories, especially if you're walking and
Mhm.
playing, and you're golfers like us that are taking up to 100 and something swings in a round.
You're
Uh,
walking a few miles.
you're walking a few miles, you're swinging clubs quite a bit. You're burning a lot more calories than you think. And I know guys that go through a whole round and don't consume a lot of water and don't consume a lot of calories, and that is very fatiguing on your body. And I think that also increases risk of injury and risk of I ran into it yesterday. I think fatigue led to bad ball striking for myself yesterday. And so it makes your golf worse. Is that something that you consider into your prep when you get ready for a round of golf? Is like making sure you have water, making sure you have snacks, stuff like that in your bag?
Yeah, so, real quick, I just wanna go back to the sunscreen thing for a second because it's something that I need to get better at too. I
Yeah.
do try to, remember to do, it any exposed skin before a round and then also at the turn, because we're maybe not experiencing this yet, but both of my parents, my wife's parents have all had, skin cancer and
Yeah.
had to have little pieces of skin removed basically,
Yep.
and It's coming. You
We're
gotta protect
pasty. We're
yourself.
pasty guys.
Yeah.
The sun's not kind to us. Did you
Yeah.
well, real quick, I go every year to a dermatologist. Do you go to a dermatologist yearly
I
yet?
yeah, so I'm not on the quite annual schedule yet, but yes, I have done those skin checks, and if you
Yeah.
haven't, it's a really good idea to get checked at least, excuse me.
Prevention, man.
Yeah, once a year is what they recommend. I, you know, I've gone a few times. I think I haven't tracked it as closely as I should, but yeah,
Mhm.
it's important. But
Yes. Yeah, I actually try to line it up right before the summer starts. So I
yeah,
just
that's
had an
smart.
appointment a few weeks ago. And they like it's actually a pretty cool process and they track like they take pictures of every single thing on your body and track it to like a map on your body, at least my dermatologist does. And then every year they go back and check those things.
Hmm.
And again, she's always yelling at me like, "Hey, you're out there golfing. I know you play golf. You got to do exactly what Chris said and reapply while you're out there." And so, yes, I do need to be better at it, and hopefully, you'll remind me
Yeah,
to turn. That's when I
we'll
get
be a
reminded
team.
the most is when I see I have friends that I'm playing with, and at the turn,
Yeah.
everybody starts getting lubing back up with some sunscreen.
The thing
Um,
is, it's like it's annoying, right? I hate putting sunscreen on because it just feels weird on your skin and then your hands. You gotta splash some water on your hands to get that feeling off before you grab a
yeah,
club again. Like, but it's important because what we're talking about here, and the skin checks are important because if you catch it early, it's very treatable, but if you
right,
don't, it's very deadly.
yeah,
So
yeah, it's true.
you gotta watch
So
out.
onto the like food,
Yeah.
water. Is that something that matters to you when you're prepping
Yeah,
for a row?
yeah, absolutely. I use so actually, I've got it right here. This is my primary. It's from Salt Leaf Golf Preserve, another
Nice,
beautiful course. I got to play in Naples by where my dad lives. And yeah, I fill it up with ice and water it before a round. And if I know that the course I'm playing has water stations, then I can be okay with just that. If I'm not sure, then I got to bring extra water. And I ran into this last summer and learned my lesson where, the course that I was playing didn't have water stations and it was a really hot day. I ran out of water around halfway through the round. And I was dying by the end. Like I just felt so dehydrated and like I felt like there was a point there coming up the fairway on 18 where I was like, I might pass out here. It was bad. So yeah, you do have to make sure you've got enough water. And yeah, I try to carry granola, um, fruit, cherries. I love cherries. I think are an elite golf course snack. Uh,
nice.
yeah, stuff like that is important to have to.
I wish people would stop eating sunflower seeds on golf courses. I
Yeah,
don't know. There's something out here. I never experienced this until I started playing golf in Western New York.
there's enough debris on the green, guys. We don't need your seeds.
Honestly, dude, people spit them all over the greens. What the hell are people thinking? I don't understand. It's so inconsiderate.
Yeah.
I actually took a picture of it and was going to shame somebody at a municipal. I saw a cigarette butt on the green
Oh,
the other
that's
day, and it's like that's maybe the most inconsiderate thing that you could do. Although golf right now is making smoking cigarettes cool. Apparently, so people are smoking
yeah.
cigarettes and they think that's cool on the course.
That was a weird take for
To
sure.
each their own, I guess. I'm not gonna shame people for smoking, but yeah, just don't throw them on the course for sure. One last thing on the bag that I want to get to that has been an actual huge game changer for me. So we talked about cleaning clubs the day before and having them clean, and I do think it matters. Like when I do a good deep clean of my clubs, I whether it's true or not, I think it is. I feel like I hit cleaner, I hit better. I've been real big on this year keeping a like microfiber towel in my pocket and up on the greens, making sure that I clean my ball as best as I can for every putt.
Yeah,
I've
that's smart.
seen a lot of data about even grass stains on and how that impacts the roll of putts. So I make that part of my routine in putting is pick up my ball while I'm reading, give it a good clean. What's Bob
I
say here?
use my shirt sometimes.
Oh, do
Like,
you
yeah, if I forget to,
keep a towel on you?
yeah, I'm just like, well, I'm gonna wash this shirt anyway. It's
I've done
usually
it, but I was doing it at the end of last year and like using just like spit in my shirt, and that's so gross.
yeah. Well, I
Um,
never spit, but
yeah. And well, sometimes like to get some of those stains out,
yeah,
like
you
you
need some.
need some kind of water. And so in that vein, The a couple weeks ago we were up at IKEA and I got like a really cheap spray bottle, and I keep a spray bottle now in my bag with soapy water and spray, and this has been clutch for me, Chris. And I make sure that that is full of fresh soapy water before every round, and it works great for my clubs. I got a little scrub buddy. It's like a very high powered magnet brush, and it's not one of the wire brushes. I got rid of the idea of using metal wire to clean my clubs. It's just
Yeah.
an acrylic brush, and it works great. I can't wait to show you it. And I spray my clubs down if they're getting a little bit dirty. And I used to keep a wet towel. I would
Yeah,
wet a
that's a good
towel
way.
and bring that out,
Mhm.
but I found those would dry out on me throughout a round, especially if it was very hot, very warm day. And so by the end of the round, I wasn't able to have that wet towel on me. And so now I know they make ones that you can fill up with the water and spray, but I have such a big bag. I use a push cart or I'm in a cart. Anyway, I keep a spray bottle on me, and it has been a total game changer for me in keeping my clubs clean, keeping ball clean, and playing clean golf throughout a round, especially with that brush. And I don't know if it's actually making a difference, but some of this stuff is also like your level of confidence on addressing the ball. Like if a clean club makes you feel more confident that you're going to hit better, then do all the things that you can to do that. So that's another part of my process and routine.
Yeah, that's really smart, and I can't wait to see it. And like Eric said here, he's got a thing where he can't use used golf balls, and whether they're his own or ones that he's found. He starts in every round with a new ball, and it kind of
I'm
speaks
getting
to.
there. The data shows that like the more a ball is hit, the less consistent, like
Mhm,
whether or not we
sure.
feel it. That's the thing that's tough for us recreational golfers is like I used to be a proponent of this of saying like, well, I'm not good enough for the ball to matter, right? And when you if it's just a single shot, I can hit a bad shot with a brand new golf ball. And so in those individual shots, it doesn't feel like anything. But when you like take the actual data, like my Golf Spy does a great job, or my Spy Golf, or I my Golf Spy does a great job of like they set up a robot and they hit balls, right? And they'll hit used balls, they'll hit new balls, and they show you the data. Eric's not wrong that like you're better off over the season to hit new balls, and not only just new balls, getting balls that are fit to your game, right? Because that's another conversation we can have for an episode of
Yeah, sure.
low spin, high spin, soft,
Yeah,
3 layer,
low
things like that,
compression, high
and
compression,
what
yeah.
makes an impact on your game. And again, you won't see it in individual shots, but over the long haul of a season, I do think that stuff ultimately matters. So, Eric, you're not crazy. That's not a crazy thing of yours.
No, I mean, think about how many millions of dollars these companies spend to test the aerodynamics of these balls, and
Right.
you have one ball hit a cart path, and it's got a scuff on it now, and that changes the aerodynamics. So, it's not going to be as consistent as it was, and maybe it doesn't matter depending on your like. I still use used golf balls. If they get pretty badly scuffed, then I kind of use them when water is in play, right? Because
Sure.
I don't care about losing it as much. I
Yep.
feel more confident on the tee, like on a par three, if I've got to hit it over some water. I feel more confident with a ball that I don't care. It's not a brand new ball if it goes in the water or whatever.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, it's definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah. Well, let's transition our conversation here. And before we do, we're going to talk about we've talked about prep for a round, and we're going to talk about how we're going to kind of approach this round coming up here at Byrncliff. We're not going to go through every single hole here, but I
Yeah,
think you're going to show a little bit of that sick gouting that we do. But before we get into that, we showed a video last week of the first 6 holes at Byrncliff, and we're going to show you a little bit more of the course here right now. So for those watching, you'll see it. For those listening on podcast, we will post a link
yeah.
in the video description so you can also take a look at where we're going to be golfing this weekend. I'm excited for this. Maybe I'll do some scouting while the video's running here. I see a lot of balls getting lost for me on
Uh,
that.
there's a lot of dog legs to the left on this course, which would have scared me last season when my slice was still an issue. Hopefully, it doesn't come back because
I'm not playing
this would not
lefts.
be the round.
I'm not playing lefts well. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, now it's making me want to go get 9 in here after this to try to fix that slice before we get going tomorrow. We'll see. Chris, though, before we get into it, you want to tell folks about the promotion that we're running with Byrncliff here?
Yeah, so we're guys. Byrncliff is really excited to be working with us. We're excited to be working with them. They want to bring out a couple of Cover One Golf fans to play the course. So we've got a little contest going on. I'm going to put the link up. It's not a great link, so you might have to write it down. I'm going to read it off once for the podcast listeners. It's rb.gy/ZNLGRS. I'm going to try to get a better, more recognizable link than that. It's one of those shortened links, but
We'll have it on Twitter and in the show
yeah, we'll
description
put
as
it in the
well.
description. Exactly. So basically, you just head to that link. You really just have to put in your name and email address. That's all you have to do. And you'll be entered to win a round for 2, including the cart, to be used anytime this season. And they'll be glad to welcome you guys out. And we hope that you'll sign up for a chance to win. Tell your friends about it. Get a better chance to win if you have, your friends signing up and then they bring you, right? So, it should be really fun. And we'll keep reminding you to do it. The drawing is going to be on Father's Day on June 16th. So it's in a couple weeks. So get that entry in so that you have a chance to win. And,
All right, so let's dig in here a little bit to. You're gonna have to show me a little bit about how you scout because, like I said, I haven't done a ton of it. So if you want to kind of pull up and show us what exactly you're doing in preparation for a round like this.
Yeah, the first thing that I do when I'm playing a new course, and like you were saying earlier, you play similar courses a lot. I don't do this for courses that I've played, that I play regularly. This is when I'm playing a new course. The first thing I like to do is look at the scorecard, see what the distances are from the tees. I'm not a long hitter. We've talked about that before. If the white tees are playing a little longer than then I feel like I can hit comfortably. I'll play the gold tees or the red tees or whatever they may be. And that kind of goes along with what the PGA and the USGA have been pushing over the last year or so, their Tee It Forward program. I'm going to throw it up on the screen so you guys can see. And for podcast listeners, I'll describe. So basically, you take your average driver distance, and they've got recommended 18-hole yardages. My driver distance right now is about 195 according to Arcos. So I'm recommended to be playing tees that are between 5,200 and 5,400 yards. And on Byrncliff's course, that's the gold tees. Aaron, you're playing longer. Your driver distance is 225 at least, I think, on average right now. So
Yeah, I think like 235 right now.
yeah, so 5,800 to 6,000. The white tees are just a little over 6,000, so you should be pretty comfortable there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you pretty much play the white tees exclusively, but I think the PGA and the USGA are trying to get people to stop thinking about tees in such
Like
blue and white
gender.
terms or red and white terms, right?
Yeah.
Think about the distances and think about your driver distance, because I mean, if we both hit from the same tee and you end up with a 150-yard approach shot on a par 4 as a result of your drive, if we hit the same drive or like a typical drive for us, I'm back 25 30 yards. I've got to hit 175 yards or 180 yards. That's the best I can do is a 3-wood off of the deck, and that's just not a whole lot of fun.
Sure.
So I don't think there's any shame to playing to your distance. I think that it's something to try, at least if you haven't before. So yes, like you get away from thinking of the red tees as the ladies' tees. I know that Glen Oak in the Western New York area they've taken colors out of the tees altogether. They're just numbers now, and they're
And they
really
have like
trying
6
to.
options.
Yeah, exactly. They've got a bunch of options because I think it's a really forward-looking way to approach the game. You got to be thinking about the distance, the total 18-hole yardage, not the color of the tee. So
Mhm.
that's the first thing I'll do is pick which tee I'm going to play from. I'm going to be playing from the golds at Byrncliff, and then so I'll show you an example of what I'm looking at. And this Arcos has a really cool feature called you can preview the course and use their like preview caddy mode. If I have enough time and I'm feeling into it, sometimes I'll do it for the whole course, all 18 holes. But other times, you start with the highest handicap holes, and because those are going to be the toughest holes, right? If you look at a scorecard, you got the yardage, the par, and the handicap number 1 through 18. 1 being the most difficult hole on the course, 18 being theoretically the easiest hole on the course.
And for that reference of the tee it forward, those can so like I know at Sheridan, the number one handicapped hole for me changes if you move to the gold tees
Okay.
because they've bumped up the gold tees on that particular hole. It's the longest hole on the course and it's the most narrow. And so they've bumped it up quite a bit. Where not every gold tee is so far up. Like some of the holes you go to in a gold tee is still on that same box, but 10 yards ahead or whatever. This one is substantially farther ahead. And so it changes. I think the handicap for that hole for the gold tees might be like the seventh hardest hole. It goes from
Oh,
the
okay.
fifth to the seventh. So I do think don't you when you're looking at a scorecard, it is like you got to look at the bottom line, I believe, to see what the different tees are for both scoring and handicap of the individual hole.
Yeah, and a lot of courses have started to do hybrid tees, right? Where you can play white blue or white gold, where sometimes you're playing from the white tee, sometimes you're playing from the gold tee, but the total yardage is between the two, just to kind of give you a little more flexibility.
Hmm.
But to give you an idea, I'm going to throw up on the screen here what the Arcos preview caddy looks like for the fifth hole at Byrncliff, which is the number one handicap hole. This is showing
This
us.
hole's terrible, by the way. I remember specifically this hole's a tough one.
So yeah, I mean, uh I moved the tee up here. Like this should be where the gold tee is. I think the white either is at the back of this tee box. I think this is the tips back here. But anyway, they're recommending that I hit driver. I've been hitting a little bit left off the tee, which I'll show you here. If you kind of you can show this screen where it shows you your
Right.
percentages, right? I've been almost half the time I'm in the middle. I've been I used to be a slice hitter and I've been missing left more lately, which is very strange to me. But this bunker might be an issue. But what I'll probably end up doing is favoring the right side, because I'll show you on a still shot from that video we showed. There looks like there's a kind of a berm here heading into the woods that could be a backstop if I miss right. But anyway, the second shot they're recommending here is a 7 wood, assuming I hit the driver where they project. Hitting a 7 wood up into the green, they're saying I've got about a 25% chance of hitting the green.
Hmm.
Um, about half the time I'm going to miss short. And then you can see the other percentages up here. 12% I miss left, 6% I'll miss right, 10% I'll miss long. Now, the thing is, I'm looking at these distances. I'm like, 7 wood, I don't hit that 130. That's at least 150 club for me, right? My driver is 195. I said earlier, they're throwing 172 here. And I was trying to figure out what the hell is going on with this hole.
Well, it's an elevated green.
That's what I noticed here.
Yeah.
There's 71 feet.
The whole thing goes up from that bunker forward. It all continues to increase in elevation.
There's a 70+ foot rise on this hole.
Hmm.
That is more of a rise than the sixth hole at Pebble Beach, the
Hmm.
18th at Augusta. Like that's a 5-story building. That's a really big rise.
Hmm.
So that'll be interesting for
Also, to
sure.
that point, you said if you go right on the drive, it's quite sloped as
Mm,
you come up that fairway. So, which for me is super difficult to hit off slope. It's not something I practice a ton. So, like if the ball's above my feet, I really struggle. So yeah, like it's actually this picture doesn't even do it justice of how slopey it is
yeah.
riding up there. So the last time I played this, I actually ended up really in that insert of where the trap is. I didn't hit the trap, but if you go too far left, those trees are in play. Plus, you have to get up over to an elevated area. It just makes it's a super challenge for recreational golfers to play both slope and elevation in the same hole, which is why it's the number one handicap hole.
Yeah. So I mean, and it's narrow in here too when you're
Yeah, you can't
coming.
miss long here if I remember correctly. Like there's a big drop off on the elevated green, and it's like the woods are pretty close there. There's no backstop. So if you miss long or off this left edge, it drops down like significantly in hard, and it's hard ground over there last time I was there. Which if you miss and you take a bounce, you could like be 20 feet into the woods over there.
It looks like a beautiful hole. I mean, this
It's
really
great. It's gorgeous.
nice elevated green
Hmm.
nestled sort of in the woods there. But yeah, it looks really tough. So that's why, like, and like I said, I sometimes I'll do this for every hole and kind of scout the course. But
Sure.
if I don't have time, I'll start with the first handicap hole and kind of get an idea. Um, I think it just kind of helps to think ahead a little bit, and
Sure.
sometimes you can do
Visualization's
it.
a real thing. Like I
Yeah.
listened to a lot of Dr. Bob Rotella, and read his books, and I've listened to a couple of podcasts where he's been on, and he's a big believer both in the visualization going into a round, but even like as you approach a shot, like seeing the shot increases your odds to hit that shot.
The Arcos preview also gives you a second option, an
Right.
alternate strategy here. This is where if I wanted to hit 3 wood and try to keep the bunker a little more out of play, like go for this kind of meatier part of the fairway back here, then I'm looking at a 5 wood and I'm probably not going to make it to the green, especially considering how high it is, and then hitting my 58 wedge up to get it up onto the green.
Hmm.
So it's more of a 6-stroke strategy than a 5-stroke strategy,
Sure.
5.3. They're projecting for this first strategy, but I I think that it's cool to kind of see a couple different ways to approach it, even if the alternate doesn't seem like something you necessarily want to try.
Sure. Do you have any other holes you want to run through, or is that kind of the?
I figured we'd just do the one
Yep.
example. Yeah, I didn't want to kind of beat people over the head with it,
No,
but
yeah, yeah.
I think it's
It's
kind of
it's
a fun
good.
thing to
It's
look at.
probably something I should increase into my game. The mental aspect of the game is something that this off season I've really tried to work on. But for me, it's been more like once I'm on course and presenting in front of the ball and approaching and getting in my stance is really where I focused the mentals on. And I'm not perfect. I've got a lot of work to do there, but that process should probably start ahead of time, especially at a challenging course like this where I'm assuming going into this round, Chris, that as well as I've been playing, I will not play to my index. It's a new course for me, even though I've played it before once. It's a more challenging course than the municipals that I play on a regular basis, where you can't get into a lot of trouble. I was playing with Sal yesterday, and there was a couple that I'd like had big misses, and I was able to recover from big misses because you're not dealing with actual forest. There's no forest at Brighton where here if you hit into the trees, like you're hitting out of bounds and you're taking penalty strokes and things like that where you just don't I don't deal with that on a regular basis. So this for me, if I'm not mentally prepared and maybe charting out course management in a better way, this could easily get away from me and be one of those rounds that's to my index is a scrap round because it's maybe shooting in the hundreds again, which won't impact my index. But it's tough and frustrating when you have goals and things like that. Mentally preparing yourself can maybe alleviate some of that frustration for you in during the round and be allow yourself to enjoy like, hey, I am on a really nice golf course and I'm mentally prepared for what to expect going into it. So I'm not learning the lessons from bad shots while I'm out there.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's anything else on Byrncliff here before we get going there? What are you kind of expecting for your round here? Being this is your first time out.
Yeah, it's tough to. I'm expecting there's a lot of holes with elevation for
Hmm.
sure. So I'm expecting to uh, struggle a little bit because it's tough sometimes to judge the distance change. You have to club up if you're aiming for an elevated green, which makes it harder to land on the green and stop. So I'm just gonna kind of take it in stride. I'm excited to meet Lindsay over at the course. She's a third generation owner of Byrncliff. It's a family owned course.
Hmm.
I'm excited to see the facilities there. They want to show us around to the hotel rooms and stuff. Their stay and play packages. If you guys don't remember from last show, they've got all-inclusive stay and play packages. They've got hotel rooms. They've got a couple condos. They have a lodge that sleeps up to 10 people. So it's a great place to go get away for the weekend. That's really accessible. If you're in Western New York or if you're visiting, it's a really accessible place, just like 35 minutes south of the city.
Yeah. Like I said, I played there last year. We had a 2-week Ryder Cup style event with my golf group. We split our teams in North Towns, South Towns. And so I'm actually looking up, I have a spreadsheet of every golf shot I've taken over the last couple of years here, which I don't need now that I have Arcos. It's actually just all better data and UI. I suggest anyone trying to improve their game, look into Arcos. Super amazing stuff, really good stats. Some of these stats that I actually kept are totally meaningless and don't actually matter. But so I'm looking at my last round there was September 30th last year. We played 18 holes. I shot a 97. And it was in tournament play, so there was no mulligans. We played every shot, played by the USGA rules. Shot a 97. I was 35.7% fairways hit. I got green in regulation 27.8% of the time. No birdies, 4 pars. And I don't have my bogeys and double bogeys, but I'm going to look back at that round on 18 birdies and see how I played on each hole, maybe as part of my self scouting here. And I think that's maybe my goal going into it is do better than I did a year ago. Like if I can come in under 97, I feel like that would be good in terms of the like scoring goals that I have and things like that. And knowing that I'm a better golfer than I was a year ago and trying to continue, even though progress isn't linear. And I'm not going to judge myself if I shoot over that because every round's different. But I would like to be able to walk away from this course and shooting better than I did a year ago when I last saw this beast. And to your point, yeah, I'm excited to. We were there so early. We were the first tee time of the day that day. Everyone was super nice. The starter was super nice. The facility was great. We didn't get a chance to check out the driving range. We didn't get a chance to like go up and see the facility because as soon as we were done, everybody kind of had to scramble and get back to our lives. And so I'm more interested to be able to take in the facility as a whole. And I do think, Chris, if you have the chance, we should also try to get back out there in the fall before the season ends because the thing that was it'll be beautiful while we're there here, but because
all those trees, I can imagine
here in Western New York, especially the Buffalo side, you in the Rochester area, you get a little bit more of it in the Batavia area and things like that. But here in Rochester and Buffalo, the courses are so flat and you don't get great forest views and things like that. Like you're kind of in the rolling hills out there, and some of the views we were out there, like I said, September 30th, foliage was like peak and the views were gorgeous. We were taking it in. There was multiple times where we're walking up some elevated greens and looking back and it was like, holy cow, like this is gorgeous. We're so lucky to be able to be out here playing today. And so I would love to go walk that course with you or be out on that course on a day where it is full foliage. And fall golf, some of my favorite.
Fall golf is
anyway,
great.
yeah,
Especially before the leaves fall. Because
Yeah.
I mean, obviously once the leaves fall, it gets tougher to find your ball. But
Sure.
it's cooler weather. It's beautiful if you're on a course with a bunch of trees like Byrncliff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
all golf is great.
Yes, and it's going to be beautiful. Like right now, the forecast for Western New York here for the next week or so looks great. It looks fantastic. If it's anything like today, it's going to be a beautiful day, and it'll be green and flush and beautiful out there. And so I'm looking.
If you guys can get a tee time on Saturday, you might see us. We're teeing off at like 12:30 on Saturday. So
Yeah, we'll be
call
there. So
585-535-7300. See if you can get out.
absolutely. And so wrapping it up, Chris, anything else for the people here? We want to get out of here, and I might get into some golf here this afternoon. Hopefully I don't hurt myself or fatigue too much before our round, but I'm itching to try to fix this slice, dude.
Yeah, no, I don't think I have anything else for. I mean, I guess you just remind people to subscribe if you haven't already, because this is a different channel from the main Cover One channel. And we could really use your help to spread the word. So likes, comments. If you're on a podcast platform, if you rate, review, follow, whatever on your platform is the terminology, it really, really helps as we try to build this up. And we just appreciate you guys being here. We love getting the feedback and getting the comments to throw up on screen. So we hope you'll tune in next week too.
Yeah, thanks to everybody so far that has supported us. It is a new venture. We appreciate the people listening, tuning in, commenting, all that stuff. And also, I want people to use these opportunities, whether it's in the YouTube comment sections, on our feeds, If you're in the Slack channel, we have our own group in the Slack channel as well. If you're a Cover One Pass member, to talk about your shared experience in golf. I think that's one of the things I'm looking for, is to build this as kind of a community of recreational golfers who are all kind of trying to get better and enjoy the game and learn the game together. So share those experiences. Like I said, wherever you can comment. We want to make golf feel relatable. There's a lot of shows out there where it's a bunch of scratch golfers telling you how to get better. We are not that. We are all average recreational golfers, all trying to improve our games in different ways. We want to hear about how you're also in that relatable golf space. So other than that, Chris, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I'm excited. We're going to get to hang out. I always enjoy hanging out with you in real life. And hopefully we have a nice round of golf to report back on here next week. So tune in next week. Also stay tuned to our social media accounts. We will be posting some content about how it's going, but next week, hopefully we are able to rave about what great rounds we had over at Byrncliff Resorts and Banquets.
I'm going to be nursing like a 112 or something.
Hey, whatever.
Can't see it already.
Whatever. As long as you're striking the ball well, right? We'll hopefully we're striking well, and it's just a tough course and it got us the day.
But yeah, remember guys, remember to enter to win a free round at Byrncliff. That link is in the on the screen now. We'll put it in the show description. So check it out. Just need your name and email address, and you can win a free round for 2 with a cart.
Awesome stuff. And yeah, we'll post that everywhere, and hopefully everybody jumps in there, and maybe the winner, I'll try to join up with them or something for a round if they win, and we want to set up a tea time or something. I'd love to play with more people. I'm always getting people hit me up like, hey, would you want to get together and play? And the answer is yes, absolutely. I would love to play more golf. So hit me up. All right.
Darn.
Right. All right, Chris, I will see you tomorrow, and everyone else, I'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Cover One Golf Podcast.